All right, guys. Welcome again to another live recording of Pencil Leadership. I'm Chris Anderson, the host of the show. And guys, we're super blessed to have another amazing guest. I say it every time, but we truly are blessed with the guests we have on to come share their expertise. And today we have Matt Rosenthal, who is the CEO of MindCore Technologies. And so he provides clients with creative and transformative technology solutions that have a meaningful impact on their business's success. And he also prides himself on being a trusted advisor to his clients to help their businesses succeed across all avenues. So again, super blessed to have Matt Rosenthal on the show. Matt, welcome to Pencil Leadership.
Hey, how are you? Listen, first of all, I want to tell you that I'm so grateful that you're having me on. I appreciate that you feel blessed, but anytime I have an opportunity to just really talk with anybody and just share my stories and ultimately help people, and I think that's what this is about: reaching people and just giving, sharing stories and guidance and knowledge. To me, I'm just grateful. It's a great opportunity. So thank you.
I love it. Yeah, no problem. So and on that note, I would love for you to kind of just share a little bit about your journey, whatever you feel comfortable to share, just
Sure.
so people know a little more about you.
Absolutely. So working backwards, I'm in IT, and as you guys know, that we help businesses with IT strategy and business strategy. But what it's really about, and what the journey has been about, beyond just helping businesses, is like serving other people. And for me, going back to my childhood, and everything that I've ever done, whether it be working as a camp counselor for 8 summers as a teenager, or continuing on through high school and through my college years and into any business, everything that I've ever done and been involved in has been truly about service. It's always been about helping other people. I spent 15 years as a volunteer firefighter, and there's a certain way to look at volunteering, which is, you do things for other people to help other people, expecting nothing in return. So for me, at the core of MindCore, no pun intended, and at the core of everything that I do, it really is service to others. And how can we improve other people's lives, other people's experiences? And even beyond that, can I be a mentor? We'll talk about it, I'm sure. I've made a lot of mistakes. There's been a lot of failures over the years, and really that is more valuable than any MBA that I have or any education that I have. So while I've had an interesting journey, and there's probably a book or two in there, it's the lessons that I've learned and the underlying spirit of gratitude, joy, happiness, and tying that into delivering a service now today, currently, to all of our clients and everybody that we look forward to working with and helping in the future. Where if we can take technology and we can line it up with business strategy and be able to help any business owner really just reach their goals, reach their potential, by using process, by using workflow, by using mentoring, understanding. It's the combination, the confluence of all of that together that really impacts other people. And so that's what it is for us. And for me, it's really about having an impact on other people's lives. And along the way, for me, there were definitely a handful of people that I can look back on now and say, wow, they really were mentors. They really intentionally or unintentionally impacted my life and impacted the trajectory of everything that has happened and is probably going to happen. So I know it's kind of broad, but it really is all about service to others.
Yeah, I love that. And I'm right there with you. I love serving others. I think is what it's all about. I mean, it's about other people and what we can bring to them. And so thank you for sharing that. And I'm excited to dive into just this topic of technology and processes and how that can help us solve business problems and issues. So I guess, what are some of the big issues you see people have in their businesses that technology really can help solve?
There's a few that come to mind, right? And before I
Yeah.
list them, and I'll give you, for example, cybersecurity.
Okay.
I mean, everybody knows that's top of mind.
Yeah.
Work at home now is top of mind. Working remotely before was important, but now it's become the way. But if you just take that up, like go 10,000 feet above that,
Uh-huh.
there's an underlying issue. An underlying issue
Okay.
is that most business owners, and it's not, it's not a negative thing. It just is what it is. They look at technology as something that you don't want to spend money on. So the
Mm.
biggest problem that I've come across throughout my entire career is when business owners or business leaders go to budget for technology, they're really not sitting back and saying, what are the goals of the business? What's our 5-year, 1, 3, 5, 10-year plan? What is our revenue targets? Where do we want to be more efficient and productive? And then having the most important person at the table, which is your technology advisor, in that conversation so that you can have that alignment, right? So they're looking at it as a line item that you want to spend as little as possible. The biggest problem that I run up against, and still, I brought it up until yesterday, is business owners who they want everything to just work. They want these great solutions. They want streamlined, turnkey, but they don't want to budget for it,
Ah,
which I understand. Look, the bottom line is it comes out of the owner's pockets. But if you look at it from a different perspective, investing in your business, ultimately it lands on the bottom line. It takes
yeah.
time and there's ROI you figure out, but that is the biggest problem. The biggest problem is a lack of really, really believing that your investment in technology is actually going to increase your revenue and improve your company.
Okay.
If people were to invest in technology, where should they invest in? Biggest problems right now, like I said, cybersecurity is a must. You have insurance on your house in case it burns down. You have insurance on your car. You got to have a cybersecurity posture. You have to have a plan. Infrastructure, and not necessarily the office infrastructure, but could be cloud. It could be like what
Okay.
infrastructure best suits your needs for your company's growth, scalability, and really to service your own clients. And so they can rely on you and they can really have faith that you're going to service them and you're not going to be impacted by a power outage or a virus or
Mm.
anything. You really need to be aware that the infrastructure you have in place probably going forward is not suited to meet your business's needs. So that's a problem that we see a lot. And what happens is people want to really get as many miles as they can out of what they have.
Right.
It goes back to my initial point. It's like, okay, but is that getting you the most for your business?
True.
Uh, the other, what the other thing could be? The other thing actually could be training.
Mm.
And what I mean by that is end user training. It does tie into cybersecurity and phishing scams and things like that. But making sure your employees understand the technology and they're on board with it and that they're respectful of it, but they also see how to use it in a way that is also maximizing their productivity.
Okay.
That's an interesting thing that gets overlooked. And when we look at where people lose productivity, a lot of times it's not the technology's fault. It's really the end users who unknowingly have a lot of like sort of quote unquote downtime because they have a problem with Microsoft Word and they spend an hour messing around with it or
Yep.
waiting for a help desk phone call back. And, if you add all that up, if you don't have a system in place to track that and to really know where the trends are and who needs training, you could lose hundreds of hours a year in
Yeah.
productivity. So
No.
it's a lot. It's a long list, but it all goes back to business strategy and IT strategy. You have to
Yeah.
have somebody at the table who can give you the advice on how to look at all these things.
Absolutely. I think that's key. And I think technology is looked at from almost two perspectives, like good and evil. Do you think there's a gray? Do you think or do you think it is just really a good thing for everybody?
Well, is there a gray?
Well, because I know some businesses that still do everything pen and paper and things like that. And it
I have clients
seems,
like that.
yeah, it seems like they're kind of getting left and they're not growing the way they should. So,
You know what? I'm seeing that those people you're referring to tend to be it's generational. So we have some firms that there's some of the founders, let's say, of some of these firms. They definitely don't want to embrace the new technology, and they're fine and they're getting the job done. But technology is your friend.
yeah.
It's it only works against you when you're afraid of it,
Mm,
or when you just don't really know how to leverage it. But it
right.
really it's. I mean, it's not a matter anymore of is technology your friend. Technology is 100% guaranteed if you use it well and properly, and you put a plan together and it makes sense and it supports
Yep.
your business. It's going to make everything so much easier and so much more streamlined and so much simpler. And um, again, at the end of the day, it's about productivity. If we're talking about
Yep.
businesses, it's productivity and servicing your clients. So
Yeah.
technology look, if you buy the wrong piece of software, I have clients that do this. They'll kind of, I'm a trusted advisor, but at times they don't want to take my trusted advice.
I understand.
It costs too much money. My advice is you should buy this CRM. And then they're like, well, no, we found this one. And I respectfully disagree. And then I'll help them implement the wrong one. And a year later, this happened 2 days ago, actually, they'll come to me and say, yeah, this thing didn't work so well. And it seems like, and I have to say, listen, why don't we look at some other alternatives now that really support your business now? And sometimes it takes people a little while to figure it out, but it is your friend if you're open to it and you're not afraid of it, and you will listen to the advice of people who really understand how to see. It's about alignment. It's you got to align the technology and the business.
Yep.
And if you use it like that, there's no way it works against you. It just doesn't.
Exactly. It's like what we're doing right now. I mean, virtually talking about a topic. I mean, if I was to do all my episodes, interviews in person, one, now I can't do it with everything going on. And two, it's just productivity it would cost too much to travel everywhere. And this opens up so many more doors to be able to connect with people. And so, yeah, I think technology utilized correctly with the right understanding is such a good asset to have and to implement. Yeah. So starting out, like, where would you suggest, like, someone's just kind of getting into starting their own business, entrepreneur wise, and they're trying to figure out what do they actually need to start with? Like, do they need to start with like a invoice, like Inuit taxes or whatever program, or like, what does it need starting out technology wise? What are the big must-haves?
If somebody's starting a business and needs tech, or somebody starting a tech business?
Somebody who's starting a business. So like a success and lifestyle coaching, like they're just starting this business that they're gonna have to connect with people. What would you say, or maybe some good technologies that they can utilize?
Yeah. So I'm going to assume that whoever this is we're talking about, they have a business plan. They kind of know what their goals are. They've got funding, to invest. And so, yeah, they need a good accounting package, but that accounting package has to live somewhere. And you got to begin with like the bigger picture in mind. So if the bigger picture in mind, let's make it up. Let's say it's a lawyer, it's a lawyer's leaving a firm, starting his own firm, has a couple partners, because I get calls like this every so often. Hey, what do we need? Well, what you really need is to tell me where you see yourself in 5 years. So, so in 5 years, you want to have 20 attorneys and X amount of paralegals. Awesome. So we need to build something that's going to be scalable to support your growth. Granted, you're taking a risk, you're starting a business, and your growth may never happen, but we got to still build this with the end in mind. Okay. So at this point, the first thing you want to do is you want to find a good cloud platform. There's no reason, I would never recommend at this point buying hardware and putting a server in your office. I don't like technical, but you get a good cloud platform. And even with that, make sure you want a business friendly, like proven platform. And you want that to be something where you're working with, actually I skipped over the most important part. You got to find an IT partner to work with.
Okay.
You don't need this on your own.
Yeah.
So you find an IT strategist who understands business. Okay. So you find me, you call me. Hey, here's my business plan. Here's what I want to do.
Right.
Awesome. Now we say, okay, do you want to go into Amazon or do you want to go into Azure? Here's the pros and here's the cons. Here's how the experience would be. Here's how you'd work remotely. So we go through all that. Once you have your foundation, well, what do we need to put in there? Oh, right. Microsoft Office 365. Great. You need QuickBooks? Great. That lives in there. Yep. And we try to create this custom soup that meets just what your needs are. Okay. And every one of those pieces of that soup, they're all scalable, right? So you can have 1 user, 5 users, it doesn't matter, but you can go up to 1,000 users. That's important, again, to begin with the end in mind.
Yep.
I mean, if you're a law firm, so maybe you need something like PC Law. That's what a lot of lawyers use.
Okay.
Fine. So we work with you guys, or somebody will work with you guys to contact them. You get that piece of software set up. You make sure you have good support on it because you're going to need it. And, aside from that, there's the nuts and bolts. You need some hardware. So we got a budget for your laptops.
Right.
And your office firewall and how everybody's going to work from home. You think about spam. You think about antivirus. You think about multi-factor authentication so that, you're secure when you're logging in. This is all like a pretty typical streamlined like package of what you want to do when you start something up. You think about your domain, you think about your website.
Right.
You could think about search engine optimization if you want people to find you. This is all part of that strategy, and you might want to roll that out in phases. And that's kind of how we do it with people.
Okay.
Like here's your startup. Here's your Q1, Q2. You can kind of ramp some of the things up. Really, once you have that, and you're mobile too, you want to make sure that you have the right mobile devices, the right tablets or iPads or phones, whatever is going to support your business.
Yeah.
But with that, it sounds oversimplified, but it's really not. It actually is that simple. If you have somebody that knows what they're doing, it's a project plan. You just kind of put the tasks on there and you just start the thing up. And the main thing is that you as a business owner who wants to start your business, you're going to be focusing on all the business aspects, all the marketing, all the sales,
right,
relationship management. You have no time to think about technology. You get one shot to pick the right partner to get this set up for you correctly, who becomes your partner that you stay with for years.
Right.
And I have many clients that are like this. I have a PR firm that is one of the largest in the country, and they started out with the original owner left a major PR firm, started her own firm, and had 10 people with her. And she came to me and said, "Can you set this up?" Well, we built their infrastructure. This is 12 years ago, knowing that they were going to get up to 100 people at some point.
Right.
And so I guided her and helped her with strategy every single step of the way on IT to this day, where they still, they've evolved. Things evolve every 4 or 5 years, but that's another good point. And as you're doing this, you're going to evolve as a business, and you might have the 1, 3, 5 year plan. Well, what do you do when you get to 3 years? Okay, now you do the 1, 3, 5 year plan again, right? So you got to have a partner who understands strategy and business.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of information, but I'll tell you what mistake people could make, and I see it all the time. You pick a one-man band as an IT provider because they're the cheapest option, but they usually have another job, so it's not their full-time gig, or they are a one-man or two-man shop or three-man shop for a reason. That tells you something. They haven't been able to evolve themselves, so how can you trust them to help you evolve your own business? They don't understand business. These are things you have to think about when you're starting your own business. You got to choose the right provider.
No, those are great points. Absolutely. And I think it's important to have someone like that, because it could get so overwhelming with everything else that they have to do starting a business. And so
it will.
And I know you mentioned the IT partner obviously is a good start, but if someone's looking for, I know you mentioned the accounting package and the cloud platform, are there things that you see that are better as far as like accounting packages and cloud platforms, one versus the other?
Accounting packages, I wouldn't want to speak to. I can tell you that we've used QuickBooks forever. It works for my business. It's totally scalable. Most of our clients, even the largest ones, use QuickBooks.
Yeah.
When you get to be either a certain size or you're in a certain niche, like one of my clients is a like national roofing company. Well, they use roofing software, and the roofing software has accounting built into it.
Gotcha.
I have some of my law firm clients use the billing software that's built into their legal software.
Okay.
So, but if you just needed an accounting package, my own experience, and I've run other people's companies prior to having my own, QuickBooks has always been great.
Okay.
It's reliable. People use it for a reason. It interfaces well with APIs, like with connections to other software. So really good.
Awesome.
As far as cloud goes, that's a whole podcast in itself.
Right.
The top 2 providers out there, I might get yelled at. You might get some comments for what I'm going to say, but they're Amazon and Microsoft. There's a lot of other people playing catch up. Amazon was definitely ahead of Microsoft, but frankly, I keep investing more in Microsoft stock every week. They've got it. They've really got it. And although we use Amazon primarily, we're beginning to use more Microsoft. But at the end of the day, I can give you a battle card that has, like, on the left side is Amazon, the right side is Microsoft, and you can say what's better, what's worse.
Right.
It's hard to say now because they're both really good.
Yeah.
I might be redundant, but I'm going to bring it back to what matters. You can go with Amazon, you can go with Microsoft. Neither of them are going to actually give you the solution.
Right.
They're going to give you the RAM. They're going to give you the resources, the storage. They're going to give you the infrastructure.
Yep.
That's what you're buying, is infrastructure as a service. They're going to give you the email. They're going to give you all these tools. it's like your general contractor coming to your house, opening up his toolbox and dumping it in your living room and saying, "Here you go." Like, what are you going to do with it?
Right.
So you have to have somebody that actually can understand your business, know what you need, then engineer, fabricate the solution for you that fits your business. And whether it's Amazon or Microsoft, it doesn't matter. They're both good solutions. But you might have a preference. If you want to be a Microsoft shop, pick Microsoft.
Right.
Be an Amazon shop, pick Amazon. It's how you use those, and the way that they're fabricated to actually suit your needs.
Okay.
So, like, what we do for people is we have somebody we were speaking with yesterday who is very unhappy with their current provider. They're going to switch to us, and they wanted us to immediately get involved in a cloud project. Well, we can't do that because we have to get in and work with you for a month. We have to really turn over every stone, make sure we step on every landmine, and then be able to turn around to you in a month and say, here's your roadmap for a cloud migration. Here's your cloud journey. And once we do that, we'll look at it and say, yeah, we're comfortable with Amazon, and we use something called Citrix, right? That combination, we're comfortable with that. It works wonderfully. And so we'll give it the pros and cons of that, and we'll integrate Teams. Teams is great for collaboration, and we'll integrate Office 365 for email. And that whole like combination of products together, they really can kind of give you a bulletproof business technology platform.
Okay.
It's not that I'm right or wrong. It's just that that's what we've seen works, and the general consensus is, yeah, it pretty much is it's the best thing out there right now.
Cool.
You know?
That's awesome. No, I think it, and again, yeah, just kind of, it reiterates, it's always good to have somebody guiding you in things you don't know. Right. So what would you say people starting out, and you might have answered these already, kind of like or things you've learned, I guess, along your IT journey, either way, some of the biggest mistakes or stumbling blocks people come upon, but besides trying to do it on their own?
Yeah. That's the best education you're going to get, is your stumbling blocks and your mistakes.
Yeah.
One lesson that I would definitely advise is, don't be ashamed or don't be afraid to ask for advice, right? So to this day, I have people that I surround myself with who are trusted advisors. So don't go it alone. Get a trusted advisor. And by the way, choose somebody who's successful.
Yeah.
Don't find a trusted advisor who thinks they know what they're doing. But if you look at them, their life and their business, their life might not be successful personally, and their business might not be successful. So they might be the nicest person in the world, and they might be fun to go play golf with, but that is not your trusted advisor.
Right.
Find somebody who really understands business. It doesn't have to even be your business, and surround yourself with like 4 or 5 of those. I did not do that early on, but I began to just organically, I had a gut feeling, and I began to do it, thankfully, early enough. And I always had those trusted advisors that would really fill me up with really good ideas. Excuse me. I had one advisor who is to this day still a great friend of mine, very successful business guy, said to me, I was about to do my first merger back in 2014. He's like, listen, you don't want business partners. He's like, I'm telling you, don't ever have a business partner. And I understood his reasoning, but I made a strategic decision to do a merger with somebody. Ended up having a business partner. I ended up doing another 2 acquisitions. And then in the end, it turned out that he was right. However, the journey I took, which was full of mistakes, full of drama, and full of, partner issues, it was one of the best mistakes I ever made. Right? Because I learned a lot along the way. I ended up buying all the partners out. I'm the only owner of the company now. And the lessons I learned through that, and the time, the pain, and some suffering, they're invaluable lessons that now I pass on to friends of mine who are business owners who are about to go through the same struggles.
Yeah.
So while you have mentors that will give you advice, you still have to make your own decisions. The other thing I'll say is, don't get emotionally hooked on an idea.
Okay.
Be creative and get all your information, and know what you're doing when you're going to make a decision, but you got to know when to pivot. But don't get stuck on something. If you buy a stock at 30, it's down to 20, and don't hold on to that emotionally and say, I'm going to wait till it comes back to 35. Sell it and move on.
Gotcha.
And so one of the things that I'm actually best at is I have no fear of pivoting. I pivot all the time. The people that work with me, sometimes it drives them nuts because we'll be doing something. We're going like full speed this way. And I'll say, no, stop. It's been 6 months. This is not working. We've invested X amount of dollars in it. Fine.
Right.
The investment was a lesson learned. I just got another education. We're going this way.
Yeah.
And I'm not always right. I'm not always wrong, but you go with your gut, but you have to be able to pivot.
Yeah.
And I learned along the way the times when I didn't listen to my gut and I didn't pivot or I didn't go with my gut, it usually didn't turn out right. And there's a reason why you have a gut instinct.
Yep.
Your gut instinct, because your mind is connected to your body.
Yep.
And subconsciously, your mind knows through all your years of being on this earth when something just doesn't make sense. And it's subconscious, and that's called wisdom. And when your wisdom kicks in, it sends a signal to your stomach, and something don't feel right. You have a gut instinct, okay?
Yeah.
If something doesn't seem right, it's not right. Go with it. And I'll give you a great example of what that might be. There's plenty of times where I'll write an email, and I write the email in the wrong mindset. Maybe I'm a little upset.
Yeah.
I learned a couple years ago to send that email to myself. I feel better after I sent it. I got it out of me. It passed through me.
Yep.
I leave it in my inbox. The next day I'll read the email and I'll be like, oh my God, thank God I did not send that out. What was I thinking?
Yeah.
Well, my gut instinct, I knew, like, yeah, you know what? I better not send this. How many people send off the nasty grams? And it's like you start wars. Like,
yep.
So an important piece of advice is trust your gut.
No, it's so important. I think it's true. If we listen to those kind of instincts and having the advisors help, because they're going to impart wisdom on us. And then that kind of grows our own wisdom.
Right.
To have those instincts, to have those reactions, and be able to make smarter choices, at least the best of our ability. I think that's, and it all ties together. And so, yeah, just so much good taken away from this. It's because, I mean, IT and technology is just becoming more and more prevalent. And it's going to continue to do that, I think, and be implemented into even more of our lives. And yeah. So where do you see technology? I'm curious, going. Do you see any like big changes coming in the future from your perspective?
Listen, I'm a believer in Elon Musk, man. I think that he really is right on with AI. AI is here. The next 5 years, I don't know what we're going to see, but I mean, we're definitely going to see the automation, the cars, we're going to see Amazon. They're already doing it, dropping deliveries with drones. But the speed at which things are going to be changing, I don't know that it's going to be like overnight for business, because businesses tend to move slowly, and we see how long it took people to adopt cloud. But the way technology, even going to the airport, and I go to the airport now and I just do the retinal scan for something called Clear. And I'm like, boom, I'm through. It's like, well, that happened overnight. It didn't. I mean, it didn't happen overnight. It's probably been around forever. It just hit the consumers. It just hit the public. So, I mean, God, I can only imagine. When you have what's his name? Is it Charles Branson, the guy from
Richard Branson.
So he's going. He's. I think his goal is to go to the Mars. And these guys are real. Beyond innovators, they're disruptors. I mean, these guys have made their money, and they're looking to impact humanity. So where are we going? I wish I knew.
Right.
Bill Gates could tell you, and those guys can tell you. But for us, look, I mean, it looks like I'm a lot older than you, but I can remember when it wasn't that long ago where we weren't carrying a cell phone.
Right.
Or when we were carrying a cell phone, it was a BlackBerry, which was 12 years ago, and they couldn't do anything. So in a short period of time, these things have taken over our lives.
Yep.
And it's like, now if you look at what the next 5 years is going to be, it's mind blowing to even contemplate what things are going to be like in 5 years.
Yeah.
I have kids. I have a 12-year-old and a 9-year-old. I look at them and I'm like, my God, they don't know life without technology.
Right.
And what is it going to be like for them in 5 years? If my daughter does, she does math that I can't even help her with because the school system is ridiculous with how they teach kids math now. So she'll ask me for help, and I'll be like, "Why don't you just do this?" And she'll be like, "So the other night we were doing something. I'll tell you really quick." And she was trying to figure something out. I said, "Why don't you just take out your phone and use a calculator?" She's like, "Well, we can't do that." And I'm like, "How absurd it is that you can't use your phone for a calculator."
Yeah.
And there's no real world scenario where everybody doesn't have a phone with a calculator where you wouldn't use your calculator.
Yeah.
Yet the school, rather than teaching them to leverage the technology, and I understand why you want the people to understand in their minds
Yeah.
how to process things, but not like some basic stupid equation you could just do faster on a phone.
Right.
And so I look at them and I'm like, I think to myself, wow, in 5 years when they go to college, how different things are going to be and how fast things are changing.
Yeah.
Work at home, people, going back to is technology good or evil? Up until a year ago, people were still sort of like apprehensive and afraid to work at home because they were afraid that they couldn't control their employees and couldn't look at productivity.
Right.
And all of a sudden, we have COVID-19 and everybody is working at home. And who knows if we're ever
Yep.
going to go back to a work in the office model. And now everybody wants to know how fast we can go to collaboration and work at home and cloud models. And that's the conversation. And so you have probably a year of that ahead of us. Like all these companies weren't keeping themselves current, have a year ahead of them probably of really getting themselves to the reality of like, okay, now we have to work at home. We embrace it. Oh, and by the way, all of our fears weren't true. We can work at home fine.
Yep.
So I jumped around a little bit on you, but
I think I think you pretty much summed it up because we don't know, but like there's so much possibility. I think it's interesting. I always go back to like when I, Robot with Will Smith came out, that movie, and like now we're seeing some of that technology and stuff come about, and I'm like, they had to have known about this. Like these movie people, no offense to them, like they had to have some sort of inkling of this stuff.
I think they know
back then. And I'm like, so what are they working on now that no one has any clue about that's going to be coming out in like the next 10 years technology wise? I'm like, it's just going to be
crazy.
Medically, like it really can do
medically unbelievable.
So I love technology. I think in the right hands, used for the right reason, obviously, I think it can be such a big benefit. And I think it is that we're seeing today. So it's exciting to see how it's going to continue to grow and be able to help people.
Look, it's going to help people as long as it's not used for bad. And we know that people can use technology for
sure.
bad.
Yep.
You can put a chip in somebody to monitor their vitals, but you can use that same chip to track where they are.
Yep.
Maybe tracking where somebody is isn't the best thing in the world. There's a lot of positives to it, but there's negatives to it. So there's the ethical and moral side of the use of technology, which is an interesting topic.
Yeah, it really is. Like, because so my background was within health and wellness and stuff. And so I would research topics of like them finishing a birth of a lamb in an external embryonic sac that they created. So they were able to control the temperature and everything of this embryonic sac for this lamb to develop and be birthed in. And I'm like, now we're getting some Matrix stuff right here. Like,
really.
Like and it goes back to like it's just crazy. Like I never thought that I'd see stuff like that, and already I'm only 29, seeing that stuff I'm like, whoa, like 20 more years. What in the world is it? Literally, what is it going to be?
Unimaginable. It really is unimaginable. It's not like, you'll be here to see it. I'll be here to see it. But my God, it's really unimaginable. You've seen Terminator, right? With Schwarzenegger.
Yeah.
So it's funny because that movie, I think it came out in the 80s. I think I was like 11 or 12 when it came out. But I saw a video online a few weeks ago where they have these robots that are completely agile, completely intelligent. They look like those robots from that movie. And it's spooky almost that they would even make the thing look like the robots in Terminator. Like, could you make it look like something else?
Yeah. Right.
Here, they're real. It's real stuff.
And like the external robotic systems that help people who are paralyzed, and like the super suits for like military, like so they can have more strength. Like it's fascinating, and I try to see what good will come. I try to focus on the good that'll come.
You have to. Otherwise, you'd be scared. You'd be scared. You have to get the good.
But no, I think this is huge. I think technology is huge. So I think the biggest takeaway is, guys, find an IT partner, someone you can work with to get you on the right level, to get you the right systems in place so you're not way behind as technology changes. That's what I personally took away from it. I think that's huge for sure. But Matt, thank you again for being on the show today. We really appreciate it, sharing your perspective and expertise on technology and how that fits within our businesses. Before we go, though, I always ask this question of my guests, and it has to do with the fifth trait of pencil leadership, that we're all created with a purpose, and that purpose can leave a positive mark on the world. So when everything is said and done for you here on Earth, what do you hope your mark is that you left?
Nothing to do with technology. You ready?
Okay, I'm ready.
I believe that inside of every human being, that the purpose, our true purpose for being here, is to live a life of joy. Right. So it comes from inside of you. You're to have to have love in your heart, and to have joy and happiness, and that is what you should leave with. That's what you should touch everybody with. So if you can have an impact on everybody that you come in contact with, where you impact them in a way where, whether it's being empathetic or compassionate or understanding, or volunteering for something, or lending a helping hand, or mentoring, or whatever it is, you are bringing joy, and you're being a guide, and you're being a light to somebody else. And I can speak from being on the receiving end of this, especially over the past few years where I've gone through my own really interesting transformation. That is what you need to leave. And certainly it goes without saying with your immediate family, but everybody that you come in contact with should feel that from you.
Yeah.
And you'll have an impact on their life. And that's what it is for me. That's why I actually spend a lot of my time with that type of mindfulness, and being grateful, and meditation. And I talked to you before we came on about that.
Absolutely.
That is where it all comes from.
Yeah.
And so that's really what it should be.
I love it. I love that. Love life of joy, and impart that on other people. So
absolutely.
That's amazing. So Matt, thanks again. Where do you want them to connect with you at, if they have more IT questions, or even just about living that life of joy?
I'd love to talk about that. So me directly, you can use my email address, and I think you're going to put it up. Yep, there it is. So that's awesome. You can get me directly.
Cool.
You definitely can hit my company's website if you want to find out about the company in general. We do all kinds of services, but I would encourage anybody who really wants to just talk and just get some guidance, just trusted advisor, knowledge. I'd love to just kind of chat and listen to what you have to say and give you my thoughts. And if we ever end up, working together, that's great, but it's not necessary. Just feel free to reach out to me, and I'll give you some advice.
Awesome. Guys, definitely take advantage of that.
Lots
I appreciate it. I probably will. I need another
LinkedIn. You can put my LinkedIn up later if you want to.
Okay.
Find me on LinkedIn.
Yeah, and we'll put all the links in the show notes too, guys. So you'll be able to find how to connect with Matt in all the platforms. But reach out. Definitely get connected, because outside IT, like he's just packed of knowledge, of wisdom, just from his experiences, just from talking to him before the show. I could tell he truly wants to live that life of joy and make a difference. So guys, definitely connect with him. Again, Matt, thank you so much for being on Pencil Leadership.
Yeah, it was awesome. Thanks, Chris.
No problem.
Talk to you soon.
Yeah, absolutely. So guys, if you like this episode, if you think it can help anyone, share this, tag them in it, whatever it is, so we can continue to leave a positive mark on the world. If you haven't liked or subscribed to the show, rate or review it, please do so, because it does help us get this message out to more people, so we can, again, just extend our reach and leave a positive mark. But until next time, let's go out and be pencil leaders.